Hey guys, made it out on the water today. This is New York Lake, and it's got a dam on the upper side, and dam on the lower side. Just a limestone rock kind of dam that Corps of Engineers put in there several years ago, many years ago. But looking for a spot to drop some trot lines right now, and I go by the gauge, the river gauge out of Memphis, and it's showing 10 feet right now. So at this point, the water from the Mississippi River is just kind of trickling over that northern dam right now. But the thing I have to keep in account is by midweek or so, 5 days maybe, the river gauge forecast is showing 21 feet. So we're looking at a rise of maybe 2 feet every day. So when that happens, you really have to plan ahead on your lines. This is about as far up as I usually go on New York. The upper dam's still a couple miles up there. And looking at this spot, you can see a pretty long stretch of just a straight stretch, which means there's going to be a lot of current coming through here. And when the river rises, you get limbs, you get logs, you even get whole trees with the roots and everything. So it gets to be a mess if you put your line somewhere where it's going to get into that trash. So right over here looks like a pretty good spot, and it can be sometimes. I've actually put a line there before, so I know this firsthand. Whenever you have a long straight stretch and there's no breaks there, and you come over here and there's a bend, well, all that trash is going straight into that bend. So with the river rising to this level, I'm definitely not going to put anything right there. Now after the bend, we got a break in the current, and some of that trash is going to stop there, and then it's going to go around. It's kind of an S curve here. So I'm going to look at the inside of that S curve, and then possibly on past that, because this is a really good break in the current here. So definitely passing this up for now, and I'm gonna go up here and see what it looks like. All right, now here we are up at the end of the S curve, and you can see it's a pretty good break in the water flow. Now, I'd kind of like to put a line right here off of that point and stretch it out this way, but there's really nothing to tie it onto on this side, and you have to be careful with stuff like this. That's going to wash away. That's one of those logs you'll see floating down the river in a couple days. It's just sitting there floating around. So what I might do is tie off from the point and anchor the end of the line down with some weights. Just stretch it out and drop it down with some weights on the end. And that usually works pretty well. That's what will keep it down below all the trash that's going to be floating over and all that stuff. Plus we have a break in the current right there, so should be really good for a few days at least. May have to move it if the water gets to a certain point, but it's an option. Looking over on the other side, there's not a whole lot going on. Not a whole lot to tie to, and this is a kind of a sandbar out here. It's underwater, but it's a sandbar, so it's pretty shallow right now. So there's not much to work with. Now in a couple of days, it's going to change, so I can probably find a spot to tie a line to, but don't think I'm going to right now. So let's move on down and just consider this spot. All right, here's the next spot I'm looking at. We're on past the S curve now. So there's some good natural break to the current. But you can see there's already quite a bit of debris floating around here. And I can tell you from experience that this area ends up being just a floating pile of logs and, you know, limbs and junk, which makes it tough to do anything with as far as trot line goes. Now it's probably a few days away from that. We're just at a 10-foot stage right now, and you know, you can see it's got several feet to rise before it gets up to the top of anything there, really. So I could stretch a line out through here. There's good structure, good water depth, but I'd have to move it in a couple days, and I don't know if I'm going to want to do that. Now, as we go right over here, there's kind of the level of the bank lifts up a little bit, and that creates just enough break in the current where it shoots off this direction. So you have kind of an eddy over on this side against the bank. Eddy's just where there's not current flowing through. Sometimes there's even some reverse current coming back this way, but it's not much. So this is a spot I might want to put a trot line. Could tie off to that old tree, the bottom of that old tree there, stretch it out that way, drop it down with some weights, and then once the water comes on up a little bit, we can move that up against the bank and tie off to some limbs off that way, because you know, you gain 10 feet or so, that water's going to be on up there on the trees. So it's another spot that I'm considering. Well, I was really wanting to put a trot line right here, tie off to this, stretch it out that way. You see all this good structure. Just looks like a place where there's probably some flathead catfish through here, and I like catching some flathead catfish. But we're looking at the river coming up 2 feet a day. Now I'm over 6 feet tall. This isn't as tall as me standing up, so we're looking at 3 days, this thing's gonna be underwater. And I don't wanna have to move a trot line after 2 or 3 days. So I'm gonna have to pass on this and move on down and see what else I can come up with. All right, so decided I'm gonna go with this spot right here. Just tying off to this tree to start with. Now, usually I try to tie down below the surface of the water, just because there's some particular fishermen that like to run other people's lines for them. So try to hide those things. But right now, the river's going to come up fast, so this is going to be water level maybe by in the morning, who knows. So I'm not going to worry about it too much right now. So we're going to tie this off, and we'll push off and let the line come on out of here. Just got it in the bucket, and we're going to stretch it on out. That's the way it's supposed to work. Getting there.